You're watching Drake Wing Gaming. Enjoy the video.
Hey guys and gals, Never here from Drake Wing Gaming. Some of you on Twitter, the Gaming Drag. Today I'm coming back at you on the Let's Play episode of Kingsguard, Koshiro's Path. So y'all, let's go ahead and jump right back into it, shall we? Alarm chain, you were up, and let's go. Alright. She was so high up it was difficult to even see her face, but you could tell that it was Marilyn. Your heart sunk in relief. She made it out of the throne room okay. You wagered that Esther was likely inside. The boarding plank was still further down the boardwalk, and with every step you took it seemed to be moving further and further away. The day was growing hotter by the second. Your heavy clothes only added to the heat. You moved even slower as your sweat-drenched clothes began to restrict your movement. Look out! You didn't take notice of the rapidly approaching footsteps pounding on the docks behind you. One moment you were scurrying to get onto the ship, and the next you were lying face down on the boarding plank. A searing pain ran along your backside, and it felt as though your insides were leaking out. The warmth of the sun did little to keep the chill that began to creep along your body. The pain was unbearable, and you couldn't make a sound. Jake! Someone yelled your name, a familiar voice, but your mind couldn't put a name or face to it. Everything seemed to twist together, transforming into distorted shapes while the colors bled together like abstract art. It was a struggle to keep your eyes open. You couldn't help but give in to the darkness. You floated through a sea of nothingness. There was nothing to look at, nothing to do. You couldn't even see your arms or legs. You wondered if you even had arms or legs here. Or maybe you never had a body in the first place. The image blurred before you, and once it settled, you noticed you were glancing up. A full moon was in view, shining its light down on you. As you glanced around at your surroundings, you couldn't see too much in the darkness. Trees, or what you thought were trees, were the only things around within eye shot. You walked closer to one of the thin trees and examined it closely. I think I remember seeing something about these. Bamboo, I believe. It doesn't grow in many places inside of Yasan, though. Wherever I am, though, I must be quite a long distance away from Havana. There was no trail to take, and you didn't see any kind of landmark. How did I even get here, anyway? What was I doing before this? You recalled waking up in your bed and heading out the door, but everything else was just a blank. I suppose I can't get any more lost than I am now. You looked back up at the stars and cursed that you hadn't slept through the star-reading lessons that Corello gave you. Who would need to read the stars, anyway? We have compasses for that. You chose a direction at random and headed forward. With the unchanging scenery, you couldn't tell just how long you had traveled. An hour, perhaps, but all you knew for sure was that your feet were begging for you to rest. Finally, you saw a dim light in the distance and approached. The trees began to thin out, and you entered a clearing of woods. Wisps of smoke rose up ahead, and you saw a soft glow through the trees. When you broke free from the densest part of the woods, you nearly ran into a large wooden fence. You knocked on it a few times, and it resounded with a solid sound. It looked expertly made. You doubt even an axe would have been able to chop through it. Oh. You took one direction and followed along until you finally saw what appeared to be an entrance. You stopped before you made another step. Something didn't feel right. Two statues stood guarding the gate, or at least they appeared to be inanimate. Once you caught one of them moving ever so slightly, you knew they were very much alive. Both looked to be wearing a striking black mask with red ornate details that looked like a wolf. While it was a bit of a guess, they appeared to be beastmen, and as soon as you saw a tail flick from behind them, it confirmed your guess. The one thing that stood out to you was their garb. It had that same distinct style that Koshiro always wore. Whoever they were, they hadn't noticed you yet, even though you were pretty much out in the open. With nowhere else to turn, you risked moving forward and confronted them. You needed to know where you were, and behind that gate was likely a town or village where you could get some answers. Even as you approached, they still kept their faces pointed forward, not even bothering to look at you as though you weren't worth their time. Although they seemed docile, you couldn't help but creep forward. It was their eyes. They had a dangerous look to them. Hello, I'm a traveler and I appear to be lost. The two guards remained silent. You moved closer, hoping to get some kind of response, but still they didn't stir. I have no idea how I got here, and I don't have any money or even travel papers, but would it be all right if I enter the village? The two guards stood at even more attention as you approached again. Sir, welcome back. I trust there has been no activity. You turned in surprise to see two more of the beastmen behind you. Had they not spoken, you would have never noticed they were there. Their footsteps made no sound as they moved forward, even among all the dried leaves and shriveled twigs in their path. One of them masked their face behind a white and red mask, similar yet different in appearance to the guards. It seemed to have been mimicking a fox in the darkness. It was hard to tell. He had striking orange eyes and an orange tail that waved behind him with every step. You couldn't help feeling like he was familiar, but you couldn't quite put your finger on it. The other one, though? You only caught a glimpse of the white wolf for a second before the pain brought you down to your knees. Koshiro? The name just slipped out, but you were certain that was the name of the beastmen. The doors of the village creaked open, and the two beastmen ignored your plight as they entered. You struggled to get back on your feet and straggled after them before the doors became locked again. The guards didn't seem to mind your presence and didn't care that you entered. The architecture of the village was unique and unlike anything you had seen. It was as though you had stepped into another world. Young wolf beastmen ran in strange garbs of multiple colors, playing tag or some variation of it. The adult villagers tossed dice and played cards or simply sat, chatted, and watched the moon. The village was bustling with activity, yet it was quite unlike the noise from Havana. Everything had a calming and peaceful vibe, as though no one had a care in the world. Despite how serene everything felt, you couldn't help but feel like you were being watched. Shadows slipped in and out of the alleys and dashed across the rooftops. You could never look at them for more than a second before they had vanished. The village was even busier than it seemed. You followed the two beastmen further in, past shops with food and spices that were wildly different from anything you smelled back at the castle, and you had tasted numerous cuisines from all over Torvare. As curious as you were to know the identity of the masked beastman, you were strangely pulled toward the other white wolf. The way he moved, the way his fur shined in the moonlight, and his voice, while quiet and deep, was strangely comforting. For someone you had just met, you felt like he was someone you could trust your life to. You came to an old wooden bridge. Below you, a wide river split the village in two. Lily pads and lotus bobbed on the surface, while fireflies weaved through the reeds at the sides. You had a clear view of the moon here of most of the village. Ooh. Koshiro. The sound of the name immediately caught your attention. Koshiro, could it really be him? You took an even closer look. The outfit was the same, at least, and so was the glare in his eyes. But that mask, if he had it off, you could tell for sure. You erred on the side of caution and stayed back and waiting. Yes, master. What is it? There is no need for you to call me that anymore. It is all I was ever taught to say. Yes, but after today, I will no longer be that to you. You know what is to come, don't you? There is no one else who can fulfill this role now. I guess it is just difficult for me to think that one could change so quickly, especially me. For years I always thought I was born to obey orders, always do as I was told. I believed that it was all I could ever do. It will be difficult to adjust, with having to leave that life behind, leave him behind. The villagers still don't trust me either. How can I be sure they will listen when you're gone? You are one of us now, no longer a Gaijin. Once they take notice of your accomplishments, they too will understand why I chose you. You are still thinking about him. Koshiro nodded in silence. There comes a time when you must leave even those you care about behind to pursue even greater heights. Just as he needs supporters and followers, we too need you. I understand, but you still want to protect Jake, correct? To protect the king. Then you must learn to forget about him. You have your memories. That is all that matters. The wind started to still, and the noise of the village petered. The white wolf's eyes slowly darted around, his ears swiveled cautiously. It appears we have company. The children scurried away, and those that were busy immediately dropped their things and moved indoors. The shadows on the rooftops bounced from one to the next, quickling silently under the moonlight. The beastman who you thought to be Koshiro drew his blade alongside the elderly wolf. In the distance, an inferno erupted from one house, then another and another. No! This can't be! So, they decided to attack us now? Koshiro, go find as many villagers as you can. Keep them safe. Will you be alright by yourself? What do you take me for? I may have white fur, but I am far from frail. Another building burst into flames, and Koshiro cursed. He ran across the bridge, and you chased after him. It only took a few minutes for the entire village to become engulfed in flames. As the buildings crumbled, hot embers and thick plumes of smoke rose above the trees and blocked out the moon and the stars. The heat was so intense you had to close your eyes for fear of the blaze melting them off. The air that seemed so fresh became heavy with soot and ash, and your sweat evaporated before it could cool you down. Steel clashed with steel as fights broke out around the town. You didn't know who was attacking, who was the enemy, but this was likely their tactic, to sow chaos unseen. Koshiro proved to be much too quick, and you lost sight of him. Koshiro! Even taking a single breath was now becoming difficult. The lungful of the scorching air in your lungs might have shriveled up. A lone child cried in the distance. She wept over a slain beastman and tugged at her clothes for her to get up. You mean a beast woman, then? It was likely her mother that she was mourning over, though the child looked so young she might not even realize that it was too late. A feral-looking creature emerged from the smoke and it scanned the devastation. It stopped on the child and started to stalk its way over. You reached for the blade at your side but found nothing there. There was no time to think. You charged ahead as the bloodthirsty invader pounced. You wouldn't make it in time. From the rooftops, a shadow leapt with daggers in hand and struck at the pillager. It screamed in pain, but that wasn't enough to take it down. The two fought viciously, stumbling over each other and hoping to get the killing blow. Ah! The masked beastman you thought as Koshiro squealed as he was stabbed in the stomach. But he didn't take the hit in vain. The killer slumped over and fell to the ground. Koshiro tried to take several steps forward towards the child, but he too tumbled down. Koshiro! You rushed to his side, and at your touch he looked right at you. His mask slid off his face, and you knew exactly who it was. Jake? What are you doing out here? It's dangerous. You have to get going. He grimaced a bit as he put a paw to his wound. Never mind that, you're bleeding. He ripped off a piece of your own clothing and attempted to tie it around Koshiro. He shook you away with his hand and made an effort to stand back up. No, you need to leave. Hide somewhere. Until it's safe. There's nowhere to hide. Just let me help and we'll find some place to heal you. No, don't. I can't fail you. Koshiro resisted as you put out a hand to help him from falling back over. There's no time for this. Just put out your arm around my neck. We'll make it through this. He struggled more as you tried to help him. Please, stop. Just go. What are you doing? I don't want to fail you again. With one push, Koshiro sent you flying back off your feet. It didn't hurt, but you were surprised by his strength. Please, go before you get hurt again. Alright, y'all, I'm actually going to pause it right there. It is late. I am tired. I love you all. I shall see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye.